A note about my wife cheating on me. I looked at the note that came in the mail and wondered who in the world could hate me enough to send it to me. Hal, just want you to know that your wife is the best cheating wife I have ever had, and she is worth more than the $100 I paid for the privilege. The note was unsigned and was the result of a word processing program. The envelope had a local postmark and was addressed to my office, not my home address. As I folded the note and tossed it in the basket next to my desk, I wondered if someone was trying to cause trouble between me and my wife, or just wanted to tell me something, and if so, what? I thought about that note for the rest of the day and again as I drove home from work that evening. The gist of the note was that my wife was selling her body, and it was ridiculous. First of all, she didn't need the money. She had a trust fund inherited from her grandfather that gave her $60,000 a year. Besides, I was making very good money in my specialty, and Celeste was working as a secretary. She didn't need the money she got from her job, but she needed the work. It allowed her to get out of the house and kept her from going crazy. When the children fled the nest and Celeste was left with nothing to do but worry about them in a cruel world, she began to look for something to occupy her time. She tried volunteering for charity committees, but soon found that she couldn't put up with the internal politics, backstabbing, and backstabbing. It seemed that most of the women on these committees were there for status and the occasional mention in the society pages of the local newspapers. Eventually, C decided to just get a job and go to work. She started as a file clerk, and after 2 years, she became the boss's secretary. No, whatever the note was about, it wasn't money. Looking at C across the dining room table, I could see why a man would be willing to pay money for the opportunity to sleep with her. Even at 44, she had the classic beauty and voluptuousness of Sophia Loren. Her smile was sensual and her voice was low and throaty, and this woman never failed to stir my blood. Even after 20 years of marriage, we still made love like sex-crazed teenagers. We made love so often that if C hadn't gotten her tubes tied after complications arose during the delivery of our third child, we probably would have had 20 children. That thought brought another possibility to my mind. If the note wasn't about money, maybe someone was trying to plot something that would separate C and I and possibly give him an opportunity to infringe on her. If that was the case, he was out of luck. I couldn't imagine anything, absolutely nothing, that could make me break up with the woman I loved and adored. C interrupted my thoughts. "What are you thinking about, Hal? It doesn't seem like you're here." "Nothing, C. Something happened at work today, and I'm trying to decide how to deal with it." "Honestly, Hal, can't you leave your office stuff at the office when you come home?" "Actually, my love, something happened here, but I already know how to deal with it." "You're just so romantic. Here? On the table? Or can you hold back long enough for us to get to the bedroom?" "To the bedroom if we hurry, otherwise get off the table." In the end, I considered the note to be the work of someone who had a grudge against me, who didn't like me, or who was trying to get back at me for something I'd done, and who was trying to yank my chain. The second note came the following Friday. "Hal, I have been watching you, and it is quite obvious that you think the first note was the work of some weirdo. I could tell you what your wife is doing, but then you already know that. Your wife had 3 clients last Thursday, and she went crazy when I had sex with her after all 3. That's another thing you don't know about her. She likes multiple partners. 3 clients on Thursday? I know you won't believe me anyway, so here's what you do. Call 555-3232 and tell Louie you want to make an appointment with Beatrice. Tell him your name is Steve Anton and that Charles Mobley recommended you to him. I think you'll figure out what's what from here." At first I felt like folding the note and throwing it in the wastebasket, but then I thought about the tone of the note. It seemed like the author was sure of his facts and included a phone number. He was essentially saying, "If you don't believe me, look it up for yourself." To assume that C was doing what the note said was ridiculous, but then why the phone number? It was obvious that the writer of the note wanted me to know something and curiosity took over. I spent most of the day thinking about it, and around 3 in the afternoon I picked up the phone and called the number listed. The man who answered seemed unfamiliar to me, and I asked to get Lewis. Speaking. I gave him a false name and said, "Charles Mobley gave me your number. I'd like to make an appointment with Beatrice." "You know she only sees clients on Thursdays?" "Yes, I understand." "Then we need to meet and sort out the formalities. Did Charles tell you that this is a cash-only business?" "Yes, he made that clear." "Just so we understand each other, Beatrice will only be available from noon to 6 on Thursday. If you need her for the entire period, the cost will be $750. If you're only interested in sex, it's $100. You will need to meet me beforehand to formalize the deal." I arranged to meet him at a downtown bar after work. Louis turned out to be a short, balding man and got straight to the point. "And what do you want to get from our Beatrice?" I pondered the question for a while and didn't want to spend $750 just to find out what the note was about and who would pay $100 for sex. "I'm looking for something my wife won't give me. I want to try special sex, and Charles told me that Beatrice not only does it, but loves it." "That's it? That's all you want?" "Yes, that's exactly what I want." "Well, not knowing if you'll be on the level or if you'll come at all, I've already booked Beatrice from noon to 4. Will 4 o'clock suit you?" "Yes, I can make it at 4. "Good. That'll be $200, and you'll have her from 4 to 5. I handed him the money, and he said, "Algonquin Motel, room 116. Knock twice, wait 3 seconds, and then knock again. Enjoy your meal." And he got up and left. The next 2 days were strange to me. Obviously, I was supposed to recognize something at 4 o'clock on Thursday, but there was no way I could figure out what it was. From the moment I gave Louis the $200 to the time I knocked on the door of room 116, I came up with 100 different possibilities and scenarios. The door opened, and the one possibility I hadn't even considered appeared before me in all its glory. "Mr. Anton, you're just in time. Please come in." Reluctantly, I followed Celeste into the room. She closed the door behind me and said, "Louis tells me that your wife is denying you special sex. I'm sure I can help you." "What in God's name does all this mean, Celeste?" "My name is Beatrice, Mr. Anton, and this is supposed to be about your deal." "Celeste, I want answers." "You paid for special sex, I believe, for an hour, and it will take longer to answer your questions, so perhaps we'll leave that for another time. Now, do you want it or not? I have to warn you that Louis doesn't give refunds." "Okay, Celeste, play your little game, but just without me." And I turned and ran out of the room. I don't know how long I sat in the car and stared at the door to room 116, but probably about an hour. An hour was my allotted time. At 5, a tall, well-dressed man came to the door, knocked twice, then twice more. The door opened. He stepped inside, and the door closed. This could only mean one thing. My wife was having sex for money. My wife was a cheater. I had no way of deciding whether to go to the bar or drive home. The idea of finding a bar and getting drunk out of my mind was appealing, but that would only delay the inevitable. Celeste was busy until 6, and then she'd go home. Or at least I assumed so. She was always home on Thursday when I got home from work, and even though I now knew about her second job, I didn't expect her to change her schedule. The reason I didn't expect a change was because I had finally figured out exactly who was sending me the notes. I was pretty sure it was Celeste. For some reason, she wanted me to find out what she was up to. Why she did that, I couldn't figure out, just like I couldn't figure out why she was even doing what she was doing. I was lying on the couch watching MSNBC and drinking my 4th glass when I heard Celeste enter the house. It took a few minutes before she walked into the room and sat down across from me. I glanced at her and then back to the television. After 2 minutes of silence, Celeste asked, "You don't want any more answers?" "I got the only answer I needed when your 5 o'clock came on and you let it in." "It's not what you think, Hal." "Of course it's what I think, Celeste. I think you're having sex with other men for money, and that's exactly what you're doing." It's a little more complicated than that. Maybe for you, but not for me. When I drove out of that motel parking lot, the main question was, why? But then I thought about it, and the why got sidetracked, giving way to the fact of it. The important thing wasn't why, it was that you did it. I need to explain to Hal. Then convert to Catholicism and go to a priest for confession. I got up, made myself another drink, and went down to the basement to fiddle with the woodworking tools. 5 minutes later, Celeste followed me downstairs, picked up a crate, and sat down on it. Okay, Hal, if you don't want to talk, I'll talk, and you can just listen. I need to deal with this, and I need to know if we'll have anything left when I'm done. I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm being blackmailed. Louis is the janitor where I work, and Louis happened to have a video camera with him the night I got drunk and stupid and completely lost my mind. He taped the whole thing and then threatened to release the tape if I didn't take care of him and a few of his friends. At first, he wanted me to spend 2 or 3 nights a week with him, but I refused. We settled down to 1 day a week. Louis is a realist. He knows that something is better than nothing, so for 3 months now, he's been getting wealth from my body. And what did you do that was so terrible that he could blackmail you with it? I got drunk and had sex with my boss. You and Steve? I'm afraid so. I'm sorry, but I just can't imagine it. I told you I was drunk and drugged and completely out of my mind. I said I didn't want to know about it, but now I'm intrigued. You and Steve? Short, fat, bald Steve and you? I don't know how. It happened, but it did. We threw an impromptu party for one of the girls getting married. We all chipped in and bought booze and sat around drinking and doing nonsense. Someone turned on the radio to a rock and roll station, and before you could say, Elvis, the tables were pushed to the side to make a dance floor. By then, everyone had had a fair amount to drink, and some pretty raucous dancing began on the makeshift dance floor. There was a lot of dancing and groping. Imagine this if you can. 7 young good-looking guys and 12 young good-looking girls vying for their attention. Some of the girls were more brazen than others, trying to get a guy to dance with. I was watching it all, drinking, laughing, and having a good time, and then I noticed Steve. He was watching all these young girls showing off their charms, and he had his tongue out. It pissed me off. I don't know why it made me upset, it just did. He was looking at Barbie dolls while the sexiest woman in the office was only 2 feet away from him. It didn't matter that all the young guys in the office were hitting on me, dancing with me, and having feelings for me. All that mattered was that Steve wasn't looking at me. I undid a couple buttons on my blouse. Nothing. All he did was stare at the young thing. By then, I'd had too much to drink to think straight. I went over to him, pulled him onto the dance floor, pressed myself against him with my whole body, and deliberately rubbed my foot against his body. You know how short he is. His face was right against my chest, and I pressed myself against him tightly, not letting him break free. All the while, I was thinking to myself, these young girls won't do it for you, Steve. These young ones won't even look at you twice. The song ended, and I went to make myself another drink. While I was doing that, I saw Sarah take Sam's hand and lead him out of the room. I saw Steve look around to see if anyone was paying attention to him, and I guess he made sure no one was, because he took off and followed Sam and Sarah. Now I was really pissed. No, he was secretly watching the young ones. I finished the drink I had just made another, and followed Steve. A little farther down the hall, Steve was standing in an open doorway, peering into the room. I walked over and looked over his shoulder at Sarah having sex with Sam. I had lost my head. I just absolutely and completely lost my mind. I grabbed Steve by the shoulders and turned him around to face me. "Silly old man," I said, dropping to my knees in front of him. "You saw his wife, Marty, right?" I nodded affirmatively. I always wondered what a gorgeous woman like her found in a man like Steve. I always assumed she married him for his money, but now I realize I might have been wrong. How so? Steve has the biggest dignity I've ever seen. We had sex. I don't remember one bit of what happened next. I know what happened because I watched Louie's tape, but honestly, I don't remember anything. Then two guys came over and watched and started encouraging me. After another minute or so, they picked me up in their arms and carried me into the office and laid me on the table. Sarah stopped to have sex with Sam, and then both guys told Steve to make love to me. I don't know where Louie was with the camera. When the guys were done with me, they called you to come and get me because I was too drunk to get in the car and drive. The next 2 days were days off, so I didn't have to go to work. But when I woke up on Saturday, my body was so sore I could barely walk, and I didn't know why. I wish I had tried to make love to you that weekend. Yes, too bad. But at the time, I didn't know what really happened. On Monday, when I got to work, Louie caught me at the front door and asked if I could spare a minute because he wanted to show me something. I followed him to the restroom in the basement, and he showed me the tape. I still remember every word of the conversation that followed. What do you want, Louie? I want what everyone got Friday night, and I have a lot of friends who would like to try to have sex with you. A man will pay good money for quality work. You're crazy, Louie. Forget it. Then I guess I'll have to make the tape public, maybe even put it on the internet. Eventually, I gave in to his demand and we made a deal. He owns me for 6 hours every Thursday. He has sex with me, gives me to his friends, or sells me. You know the rest. That's bullshit, see? You know you could have come to me and told me what happened. Things might have been strained for a while, but you knew how much I loved you. In time, we would have worked things out. I know, Hal, but I couldn't tell you. You would have stopped what was happening, and I couldn't stop. I was trying to save the marriage. I just told you it wouldn't have destroyed our marriage. I wasn't trying to save our marriage, Hal. I was trying to save Steve's marriage. Steve's marriage? Hal, it was me and my stupid actions that got Steve on tape, and if that tape had gotten to Marty, it would have resulted in a divorce. I couldn't let my stupidity cost him his wife and turn his life into a shambles. He didn't pursue me, Hal. He tried to avoid me, but I kept pursuing him until it was too late. He even tried to hold back when I was on the table. It was my fault, Hal, and I couldn't let him suffer for it. So why the notes? Because it was killing me what I was doing behind your back, and I didn't have the courage to come up to you and tell you about it. I don't understand, see? At first you didn't tell me because you were afraid I'd try to stop you and prevent you from saving Steve's marriage, so what changed? Me, Hal, that's what changed. I've turned into a crazy, cheating, man-crazed woman. I live for those 6 hours on Thursday. I look forward to them. And when I leave the house on Thursday morning, I look forward to meeting men. It didn't start out that way. The first time it was Louie and 2 of his friends and I just tolerated it. The next Thursday it was Louie and 4 of his friends, and I got a little sucked in. The third Thursday it was Louie selling me out to 5 guys, and I really enjoyed it. When I left the motel room and came home that night, I was a different person. I was a cheater, and I loved it. That night changed me in ways I can't even comprehend. In the motel room, I was going crazy looking at the door and wondering who was going to walk in next. I'm addicted to it, Hal. It's like a drug to me. I have to spend my Thursdays doing it. I can't bring myself to believe what I'm hearing here, see? That's not all, Hal. I've turned into a blackmailer. I saw Steve driving me crazy on that tape, but I didn't remember a second of it, and I finally decided I had to find out what it felt like. I tried to seduce Steve, but he wouldn't budge, so I showed him a copy of Louie's tape and told him that if he didn't make love to me, I would send a copy to Marty. I made him do it, Hal. I'm no better than Louie, in fact. I'm probably worse. Louie has always been poor, and you can hardly blame him for seeing a chance to make some money and going for it, but I did it for me. I don't regret doing it. It was absolutely fantastic, and I loved it. Now Steve makes love to me on his or my desk once a day, and I'm glad I don't have to make him do it. I just stood there looking at a woman I no longer knew and probably never really knew again. There's another part of this story, Friday night dates. After the guys at the office had sex with me the first time, they wanted more and kept pursuing me until I gave in. Once or twice a month on a Friday afternoon, they have sex with me in the office. Bev and Sarah usually lay on their backs with me. That's the whole story, Hal. That's what I had to put out there. It was like an ulcer eating away at my insides, and I had to get it out. Why? Why in heaven's name did you have to tell me? I didn't know. I didn't have a clue about anything. If you had just kept your mouth shut, I could have gone on being fat and dumb and happy, and we could have moved on with our lives. How are we going to be able to move on now? Hal, as stupid as it sounds, I was hoping you'd love me enough to accept this as one of my quirks. Can't you be serious? Why not? I still love you. I still choose to live my life with you rather than someone else. Have you noticed a weakening of love and affection on my part? Has your sex life suffered? No. Our sex life is better now than it has ever been. I just can't keep lying to you. I just hope you have a side to you that I never knew about, and that what I just told you will ignite you. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Celeste, but I'm afraid I have no more love for you. As for accepting what you do as a fad, I can't do that either. I can't even say that if you want to save our marriage, you have to stop what you're doing. Because our marriage is dead, Celeste. Whether you stop or not, our marriage is over. I can't live with a cheater, a woman who betrayed me and my trust. We could make do with one drunken night with you, but I can never make do with the rest. Please, Hal, think about it. I love you, and I want to be with you. And I love you more, Celeste. You're damaged goods, and I won't settle for someone else's leftovers. Given the circumstances, I think it would be best if you moved out. I'll try to stay out of your way while you pack up and move out. The divorce was finalized 3 years ago. I still occasionally hear from Celeste. She still works for Steve at the firm I've come to think of as his mess. Louis still makes money off her, though probably a lot more now that she doesn't have to limit herself to Thursdays. I get cards from her on my birthday, Valentine's Day, Candy Day, and Christmas, telling me she misses me terribly and asking me to call. I don't call. I think of her often and miss her so much it hurts, but I never call. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.